Okay, welcome to this peer instruction, the last one of the course, and we will get right down to business. I think all of you were here on the last peer instruction, so this is no news for you. What you do is that you visit this link in your browser, in your phone or on your computer. You would then get this view. Are all there? Soon. I will present the question. You will get 1 minute to answer the question. If more than 70% of you get the answer right, we will go on to the next one. If less than 70% get the answer right, you will have some kind of discussion. And you will probably need to gather up then, so that everybody has someone to talk to. Okay, questions? Are you there yet? Not everybody, so I'll have to wait just a little while. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And you on distance, could you just write something in the Slack channel so I know that we have someone on distance as well, or else I'll have to terminate you're there. Good. So at least 19 answers we should get on the first question. It's this link, pingu.upb.de. Don't write a D, write a B, otherwise you will get an error. Okay, 3 on distance, so it's 22 then. Okay. The first question, if I can find it, where did it go? Okay, first question, 1 minute. What is the characteristics of a single page application? And this is a multiple question. You can answer multiple answers. Ten seconds. Whoa, that was loud. You will not miss that one. Okay, 2 seconds. Okay, so 17 out of 5 missed. You will get a 3-minute discussion on this one, starting now. So just form groups like how you're sitting, so you will probably have to move in.
Ja, man snackar om att det är en bättre lösning är ju alltså till exempel om det är 100 spel eller någonting en hel
så jag tror att det är 2 den kan ju hämtas. Nej, den sista borde vara rätt också. Den sista känns som att de använder hashing eller något sånt. Jo, det var det man kunde ha med de här.
Okay, so 20 seconds, please vote. Yeah, so this was I don't know if when I looked at the answers now for the first time in a year, I'm not even sure why I wrote as I did, or I could always blame that John wrote those questions or something like that, I'm not sure. So let's go through them. There is probably a lot of definition questions going on. What do I mean by this and that? So the application will get new data by updating the same page, the same URL. Well, I think by that I probably meant like reloading the page, but I see now that is, I'm not sure why you would think that. The application will get new data by updating the same page. Well, it will probably update the same page, but it will not get the data by updating that page, if you see what I mean. So I think that was, but when I read it now,
For example, if we have like a button and we click it, so like it is new data coming to the same page.
Yeah, so it will be injected in the same page by, but I think I write by updating the same page. So, well, all necessary code for running the application is retrieved in one single page load. False. Or yeah, that, I mean, you could, yeah, it will probably different requests anyway. And it might even be so that the application will after it has loaded, it might fetch some modules from the server as it go. I think there was something like all necessary code for running the application, but well, it could be either way in that case. The web page is never re-rendered. Yeah, it's always it will re-render as soon as you like dynamically add something or remove something from the page. So I will say that that one is false at least. And the URL in the browser window is always the same. it's definitely not always the same. That is one point with SPA applications, that you should actually try to always show the state of the application by modifying the URL, or at least that is one way of doing it, and that is probably a preferred way, so that you can get a static link into a state in the application. So if you have an application with 4 views, they might have 4 different URLs, so that you could always link to a specific view of the application.
So nothing is correct?
Well, I marked that one as the correct one, but I would say that the first 2 depends on how you interpret the question, so it could be either right or wrong. Both of those, I would definitely say that those 2 are wrong at least. Okay, that was a bad question. Let's see if we have better questions then. Got you talking at least. Where did it go? Multiple Windows and Mac OS isn't a great thing. Oh, it's over there. Okay. What does push state allow you to do? Come on. What does push state allow you to do? Why isn't it loading? No. Yep, choose all correct answers. Yeah, so that was pretty clear. We got, is it 100? Can I see that? How did you know?
Det står 100 på sidan där. Så jag tänker att den går ända upp.
Ja, men gör den det då. Ja. Close to 100 at least. Oh well, here, 100. Yeah. So everybody got this one right. Oh, that is cheating. So if only the ones knowing this is actually pretty. Oh, there might have been some kind of hiccup with the network or something, because. So okay. Let's go through them. So what is push doing? It's adding new state in the local storage. No, it has nothing to do with local storage. Of course, you could use, when you do a push state, you could also use local storage as a second source of storage for your application, but that has really nothing to do with push state. Send state information to the server? Well, no, it doesn't. Does it save state in the browser history? Yes, that is what it does. A method of array prototype for adding state in an array? No. Okay, next one. I will set 2 minutes just to make sure it doesn't lag. What problem does WebSocket solve? What? Come on. I think it's the network, right? Or? Okay. What problem does WebSocket solve? Choose all correct answers. You are not allowed to discuss until you've answered, but when you've answered, you're allowed. But yeah. Okay, so 20 seconds. Yeah, so this one should have been 30 seconds instead, I guess. Okay. Reduce the number of HTTP requests. Well, that is actually a problem that WebSockets solve. Might not be the main problem. I mean, it's the purpose is the real-time communication, but it could also be used to reduce the number of HTTP requests. Another protocol that solves that problem is HTTP2. So, but that is for later. Easy plug and play for Bluetooth units? No. Eliminates the need for ActiveX in the browser. Well, I mean, someone could probably argue that one need of ActiveX is to have some kind of real-time communication with the server, and in that case, switching to WebSockets might help. So, oh well, I didn't consider this one as correct, but okay, I will. That was probably the reason, right, for answering that? I think so, at least. Encrypts the traffic from the client to the server? No. WebSocket does not encrypt traffic at all. You need to add an TLS layer upon WebSocket, so you get a secure socket layer in the same way as you do with HTTPS, where you add the TLS protocol upon HTTP, or extends the HTTP protocol. So it's not encrypted by default. The chat server you're using for this course, it will use the WebSocket, not secure protocol, so your traffic is not encrypted if you don't encrypt it yourself. Okay, doke. 1 minute. How would you do? So, writing offline applications, offline client-side applications. How would you check if your application is online? How would you do that? Multiple question.
Problem.
2 minutes discussion, starting now.
Nej, så kan det inte vara. Tänk om du dör så kanske den var ja, ingenting kan bli. Ja, men precis. Det kan vara
Okay, so the dark blue is after the discussion and the light blue is before the discussion. So this first one, Navigator is online because it's a standardized way of polling if the browser is on or offline. Is it a standardized way of polling if the browser is online or offline?
One of the possibilities.
It's a standardized way of doing that, actually. Does it work? No, not for online. I mean, well, maybe as one part of solving if you're online and offline, but you, as I said, you could know if that one is false, then you know that you're offline. That is, I mean, but definitely, but that one isn't false, especially often. It's only when you unplug the network, basically. If you have access to your router, this will say true. Okay, do a lightweight polling against your server to see if it's online. Almost 80% answer that. And that is quite a common way of checking if you're online. What you often do is you kind of add image in, for instance, when you have a web server, like if you have Node as a web server, you often have something called a reverse proxy in front of the web server. In case of Node, it's often Nginx. So you have an Nginx that is a proxy before the web server, and the calls made to the web server will be interpreted by the proxy, and then you can set up rules in the proxy saying that if this call comes in, just deliver back a 1 pixel image, or just like answer this call. So you don't burden the web server. The reverse proxy will fix that for you. So that's quite a common task of just having your application pinging or polling this reverse proxy every 2 seconds or something like that. Do a lightweight polling, the same thing, but against Google. Well, what you will know is that you have a connection to Google. You know nothing about your server. So it might be that Google is answering, but your server is down because someone dug up a cable outside the building of your server or whatever. So yeah, you could do that. Huh?
Wasn't the question about the client-side application?
Yeah, the client side. So, I mean, oh, okay. But if you're writing an offline capable client-side application, you will probably need a server to, like, oh, okay, I understand how you mean now. Oh well, so if that client-side application is in its own bubble, then you might even have a server more than something delivering the application in the beginning. Oh well, that could be a reasonable option in that case. Okay, yeah. Often though, you will have a server because you will need to store some user data or do something. But yeah, that's a valid point. The application is considered online as long as you get a response on your requests. First, I had this as the correct one, but now I've started wondering why shouldn't that be a reasonable thing to do, at least as a complement? I mean, yeah, you might need to wait for timeout, but you should, in your application, when you do requests with fetch, for instance, you should probably, you might not have done this, but you should probably have like a try catch if something goes wrong directly. You might have some kind of timeout function to just know that, okay, I'm not getting an answer. So it could be one way at least. At least you should handle your errors. So if you are doing a request and don't get an answer, then that should be alarming in some way, and you should handle that. Well, it's up for discussion anyway. You need some kind of, at least you need some kind of plan, and the most common one at least is this one, to do a lightweight polling. Okay, so offline first. What is the philosophy behind offline first development? 1 minute. You actually need 2 minutes. You stand your ground. Okay, first of all, web applications using responsive web design is a well-thought process for developers. that is probably true, but it has nothing to do with offline web applications. So, no, it's not the main philosophy behind offline web applications. It's true though, but the privacy for end users is preserved by only storing data on the client and not the server. No.
So what privacy? We don't need that.
Hmm?
I mean, privacy is not our concern.
No, I mean, no. If you look of the philosophies behind offline first, that is not one of those points that are being made. Of course, you could probably argue that storing data on the client instead of sending it to a server is better for privacy, but it has really nothing to do with offline. I mean, you could do that in an online application as well, storing the user's private data in the client. It doesn't need to be an offline application for that. This one, modern web applications must be developed with a bad network connection in mind. Yeah, that is more or less the definition from the offline first article. So yeah, you should have a bad network connection in mind when developing applications. And this one, many answer this one, I'm not sure why, but to support the thought of web OS where an executable is downloaded and executed in the browser when no network connection is available. This one I think we just made up. I think we just like, there has been a discussion from Google about something called web OS, and that is kind of the philosophy behind Chrome. But it's not an executable that is downloaded. Well, you could probably argue that a JavaScript application is an executable and it's downloaded to the browser. But you cannot do that when you have no network connection anyways. So if you have no network connection, you can't even get the application to be downloaded. You need to get an offline web application to work, you first need network connection to download the application and start it. And the next time you enter this application, everything could be cached. But you cannot download something when you have no connection. So, well, yeah. Tricky questions today. What ability does WebRTC provide for the developer? See if you listen today. Okay, 50 seconds. Good, that was quite an easy one. So, enhance the speed of page rendering in the browser. Well, we have no API for that. Of course, the browser vendors are trying to do that constantly all the time. That is one of the big parts to improve every year in the browser to make the page render faster. To programmable drawing bitmap images with JavaScript, that was Canvas. To pack web logic in components, that was web components. To programmable render 3D in the browser with JavaScript, that was WebGL. That leaves us with build non-plugin communication applications, including real-time streams of video and audio. This was, or has always been, one of the main features of Adobe Flash to be able to do those kinds of things. And when WebRTC is gaining ground and Flash is slowly but painfully dying, this will be natively instead of as a plugin. What benefit do we get with a CDN? And do not Google CDN. Why? Okay, once again, what benefits do we get with a CDN? It's such a lag. Come on. Has anyone gotten the question? I'm not sure if it's the site or we that are. Man. Okay, here it is. 45 seconds. Well, something is out of sync. Well, just wait. And we will do a repeat for 1 minute starting. Okay, so this one is the live one. Refresh your browser and you will probably get it. Yeah, so looks like all of you voted, and you got so much time to think about that, so you got it right. So it places static files on a server closer to the end user. Yes, content delivery network. So you place those static files on a server closer to the user so that your server does not have to serve those files. And in many cases, if you use files that other sites use as well, then those files might already be cached in the user browser, like jQuery and libraries like that. Fonts, for instance. It caches static files in the browser. No, it does not. It validates HTML so it fulfills accessibility rules. No, it has nothing to do with accessibility. It packs several static resources into one big file. No, that is more a job for the build process. So in our case, we are using Webpack. We are just using Webpack really simple to like add several JavaScripts together into one file and do source mapping. However, if you set up a more complex environment, maybe using Grunt or Gulp or a tool like that, then you could do images that are smaller. You can do more or less everything that you need to do to go from a development point of view to a production environment. You can see the next question when I do that. That's not fair. So, 1 minute. What is the best description of a service worker? Multiple question. Three minutes discussion. And this was actually a good question, so have a discussion.
Ja, egentligen så kunde ingen hade inte kontrollera det måste vara så. För den kunde ju bara på sidan. Alltså till sin server. Där den kom på. Den kunde ju bara pusha till dig. Den hämtade information från dig. Om du inte var på sidan. Man får ju lite så här program. Det var det. Vi kunde den skillnaden då. Ja, det var inte att det var webbservicen då. Som jag hade som tar emot notifikationerna. Den måste på något sätt ändå det är ju sidan som pushar. Den gör det, men för att den ska kunna pusha måste du nej, men det är ju att den la sig lokalt. Den la sig som en sån. Men antagligen connectar den med Google. Jag lägger till en ja, absolut. Så det är jag tror inte den skickar när du inte är på sidan. Att du ska få notifications. Alltså inte från klienten till servern. Det ska ju vara en jävla security risk för en service som ligger i bakgrunden och skickar data till någon.
Okay. First of all, a technique that uses a manifesto file to cache static resources offline for the client. What is that called? Yeah, the application cache, app cache. Yeah, that was this technique that actually didn't work. So that one is deprecated, but it's using a manifesto file for doing that. Okay, a worker that could run more resource demanding operations outside the JavaScript event loop. Yeah, that's a web worker, right? Like we talked about this morning. A service worker is actually a worker, but I would not recommend doing resource demanding operations in a service worker. You should never do that. The service worker should be as slim as possible. It's even prohibited to write doing synchronous calls in the service worker. So if we were to do that, use a web worker instead. A worker that runs in the background and sends data to a web service. Well, depends on how. First of all, a web service doesn't have to do that.
It can do it. But
Yeah, it can do it. Okay, so the next one, network proxy on the client that is programmable and let you control how network requests are made and cached. That is basically the definition of a service worker. It's a network proxy, so it's a middleman in some way. It's in the middle of the calls, intercepting the calls. It's programmable, and it lets you control how network requests are made and cached. So you can control every part of the network requests, and you can cache things, and you could do other things. You can send that request to several servers. So what's the difference between a service worker and a web worker? Well, they're worker threads, so they will have their own scope. However, the service worker has privileges that lets it access the network stack. A web worker does not have that. And but by having that, if that one gets stuck, then nothing gets through. So it could stop all traffic going to and from at least your tab in the browser. So I guess, yeah, that one was the correct one. This one is, I mean, a web service is kind of a specialized. We don't use web services a lot anymore. We often use APIs instead, or REST APIs. Web service is kind of a specialized form of an API using SOAP and stuff.
so just a question about the web. So in this case, if I got like a web service from, let's say, Facebook, it will see all my traffic between the browser and.
So if you get a service worker from Facebook, it will see the traffic that goes from Facebook.
Only Facebook.
Yeah, from the same domain that it originated. It will not see traffic from other, but it could intercept all the traffic going from the client to Facebook on the client. Of course, they can do it on Facebook because, I mean, it's their servers, but they can also do it on the client. But it cannot intercept or see traffic from other tabs or other applications. Yeah.
Have they access to the Facebook login feature of the service worker? Like can log in other sites with like Facebook login?
If it can, once again.
If I can, what you just asked if they can get traffic if I log in
Yep.
another site with my Facebook account.
So it will, yes, it will probably be able to run when you do. So that is OAuth we're talking about. So that's you get. So if I try to log into site A using my Facebook account, what will happen is I will be transferred to Facebook, and you get some kind of login page, and that login page is stemming from Facebook. So the service worker will be able to read that. However, it will not be able to see the original site. And when you confirm the login, a token is being sent back, and you are redirected back to the page you were at in the beginning. So it will not be able to intercept. I mean, it will see basically exactly the same things that it could see on the server. It's only that it will see it on the client instead. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, security-wise, if you want to do a security final thesis or something, there is probably a lot of work to be done regarding service workers. You will probably be able to like get a good headline and scare people and get in Aftonbladet or something if you like. So, but service workers, they are so new, and I mean, if you think about how we reacted on cookies, and if you compare a cookie to a service worker, I mean, a cookie is like 250 characters of plain text, and a service worker is code running in the browser, and you are able to wake up that code from a server when the user is not even active on the page. So it's a little bit scary. Okay, actually that is it. We're done with this one. As I said before, for the examination assignment 3, we will not have as many theoretical questions as we had in the first one, or second one. We will try to weave those questions into your application. So we will focus on your application, and we will ask you questions like, okay, so why did you do this? Could you have used another technique for doing this? Hint, hint, and so on. So the theoretical questions will be there, but they will be disguised and targeted towards your code instead. Yep.
What's the minimum for the third app? Does it have to be like something advanced?
What is the minimum for?
For the third app.
I mean, you have the requirements.
Yeah.
It doesn't have. I think there might be some row saying that it should look okay. I mean, in the minimum, you should be able to move the window. The window will probably get stuck sometimes when the mouse pointer gets outside of the frame, so it like gets stuck sometimes, but that's okay. You are able to move and drag the window. You're able to focus the windows like so they get on top of each other. You're able to play 2 games of or 3 games of memory side by side. So it can't be that when I change a tile on this one, the same one changes on the other one. So they should be completely separated. You should be able to chat with someone, and you should be able to see the message coming in and the message you are sending in the chat.
So how important is the CSS?
How important is the CSS? Well,
because you said you have to have an offset from the original window. Is that very important?
it's always nice to look at something that is not just like looks like total crap, but I mean, this is a graded task or assignment. What will happen is you will show it. You will show the quality of the code. I mean, does it look good? Have you separated it into modules? Is it easy to understand the code? Are you using maybe templates or using things that were part of the course? Does it work good? Is it fluent? I mean, all of those things will add up to the grade, together with how you answer all the theoretical questions as well. We will not give you the grade on the exam. We will have a meeting afterwards together, all of the examinators, so that we will get an equal level. So we will give a proposal for a grade, and then we will together set the grades. And you will get notified by mail on the grade, or you will see it in Ladok at least. Yeah. So I can't answer specifically, but you have the requirements; those should be fulfilled. That is the minimum. If you miss a requirement, you will probably get a to do some complementary work. So, okay, you pass if you do this and that. But don't show up with an empty repository. You need something that is at least kind of working. Okay? More questions? Yes?
But we don't look at the CSS file, like, what should we refine it to? Because currently it looks like everything everything is like, I just put everything in with no structure.
I mean, no, we will probably not look at, we might look at the CSS, that it's well structured and that it looks okay, because that is part of the course. However, if you have if you tried to divide into components, for instance, using web components, I mean, that is a plus. And you could, if you have well-formed CSS, you can always say, look at my CSS, it looks awesome, and that might be a plus. So you will also have to tell us what you think is actually, this is actually something that is more than the minimum. Okay, so thank you for today, and good luck on Friday or Wednesday or the next examination after that.